right, guys, we got a big-ass show for you today. So sit down, relax, sip some lemonade or a mojito, whatever is your fancy. So we're going to talk about Biden's new strategy to go after Trump just leaked. We're going to dive into the specifics of that, determine whether or not it's a good strategy. Trump is now trying to delay the millions in payment that he has to give to E. Jean Carroll. So I don't know, that might speak to a lack of funds that some of the Trump properties may have to be liquidated in order to pay all this money that he owes. And then later on, we'll get to Michael Moore has a dire warning for Joe Biden. We have some really interesting stuff coming out of Arizona. It looks like the Democratic governor is going to wipe out medical debt. Now copying the Democratic governor of Connecticut, who led the way, and he wiped out medical debt. So I love this trend. I love Democratic governors doing this. Not only is it good from a moral perspective, it's also good because this is how you get reelected. If you do good stuff, people will reelect you. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into it. Everybody do me a big favor. Please subscribe to the channel. Trying to get that 10 million subs number, y'all, and it's going to take a while, but we build it one at a time. All right, so Axios has a report here. Biden's new strategy, go for Trump's jugular. President Biden is privately pushing for a much more aggressive approach to 2024, go for Trump's jugular. Biden is convinced he'll rattle Trump if he taunts him daily. He thinks Trump is wobbly, both intellectually and emotionally, and will explode if Biden mercilessly gigs and goads him. Who wrote this? Gigs and goads? Go haywire in public, as one advisor put it. Other sources tell us that Biden is looking for a fight. Biden's instincts tell him to let it fly when warning about the consequences of Trump winning the presidency again. Biden told The New Yorker that Trump would refuse to admit losing again. Look, that part is undeniable. If Trump loses, there's no way he's going silently into the night. We all know that. And by the way, this is also one of the reasons why the Supreme Court got it dead wrong when they were like, yeah, he's allowed to run. Sure, he violated Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, but we're going to go ahead and let him run. Well, now, you know, if he loses again, he's going to try to do the same shit that happened last time. And he's not going to go silently into the night. And you guys all brought this on yourselves because you're fucking morons who wanted to pretend the Constitution said something it didn't say. So that's infuriating. It's infuriating. But the idea that, oh yeah, Trump is going to be really rattled if Biden goes after him. That's not true, number one. Number two, Biden just last week did a press conference where he was begging Trump to work with him. You can't do on the one hand, I like bipartisanship and we should work together and let's go across the aisle and hold hands and sing Kumbaya. You can't do that while simultaneously saying, I'm going to really fight him and go for the jugular. You have to pick one. You have to pick one. Biden has been in politics since like 1827, and he still acts like a novice sometimes. The trigger Trump approach would be a departure from a traditional Rose Garden reelection campaign. Instead of focusing on jobs and the economy, areas in which polls suggest Americans aren't giving Biden much credit, Biden would be making the contest as much about Trump as his own accomplishments. All right, so look, is there a logic to this? Yes. But is there a potential massive downside? Yes. The massive downside is this is what Hillary Clinton did in 2016 and it didn't work. Now, to be fair, Biden did elements of this in 2020 and it did work, but the idea that this is some like silver bullet and it's a guarantee, I'm sorry, it's just not. There are some guarantees, but they look like they're refusing to do the things that would actually guarantee a victory. One potential upside, it would help assuage concerns about Biden's age by showing that at 81, he can still throw a Scranton punch. Again, I reiterate, who the hell wrote this? Scranton punch? Some Democrats want to see a return of the Joe Biden who sliced and diced his 2012 opponent, Representative Paul Ryan, in the 2012 vice presidential debate. Guys, the problem with that is he is no longer the same guy he was in 2012. In 2012, he was quick and sharp and had a lot of wit and had a lot of passion when he spoke. Now, he sounds like a zombie. So I don't know if there's enough Adderall in the world to get this guy high enough to be as on point as he was in the 2012 vice presidential debate. It's unclear whether Biden will flash his new fighting spirit at the State of the Union address on Thursday, but Biden's personal feistiness has been apparent in recent weeks. Loser has been a favorite Biden taunt of Trump lately. I'm the only one who has ever beat him, Biden said in the rare, lengthy interview with The New Yorker published Monday, and I'll beat him again. Trump lost 60 court cases. 60. Biden said, referring to the legal challenges on Trump's behalf that allege fraud in the 2020 election. It was 63, actually. The legal path just took him back to the truth that I won the election and he was a loser. In a speech at Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, before the third anniversary of the January 6th riot at the Capitol, Biden attacked Trump in terms that were clearly personal and nearly profane. He suggested Trump was a sick blank before catching himself. In an interview with Seth Meyers last week, Biden parried a question about his age with a shot at Trump. Biden said that at least he knows his wife's name, unlike the other guy. Biden advisors have some evidence that Biden is already getting under Trump's skin. After Biden's appearance with Seth Meyers, Trump quickly complained about the show on social media, calling the president a basket case. Biden is using his campaign's new TikTok account to take more jabs at his Republican rival. Trump has no courage, Biden said. All Trump does is bow down to Putin. Okay. So look, this appears to be the strategy. We're going to go for his jugular. In other words, we're going to be really aggressive. We're going to say he's beyond the pale. So again, I reiterate, the most important point, if you're going to do that, you cannot do what he just did, which is go down to the border and say, let's work together to fix this problem. If he's beyond the pale, if he's out of bounds, then he's beyond the pale and out of bounds, and you shouldn't normalize working with him like it's some regular bipartisan thing. So pick one is point number one. Point number two is, guys, given where Biden is in terms of the numbers and how he's struggling with his base, I don't think this is going to be enough. It's not. So first and foremost, what policies are your biggest Achilles heel? Well, that answer is obvious. Gaza is number one. You're arming and funding a genocide. You're giving Netanyahu a green light. It's unacceptable. We have over 30,000 dead civilians. Now it's at 39,000 dead Palestinians. About 35,000 of them are innocent civilians. Nearly 15,000 dead children. This is the thing that your base is screaming at you. You have to change. There's pro-Palestine protests anytime any establishment Democrat goes anywhere. You have to address it. You have to change course. This is why uncommitted overperformed in all the states that had uncommitted. So that's thing number one. Clean up on the policy front. By the way, the other thing that nobody really talks about, which is also a very big liability against him, is at the end of the pandemic, they got rid of the social safety net expansion. So namely, people now at the lower rung of the economic ladder don't have enough money to feel like they're comfortable and they're okay. They got a lot of the money cut off because they ended the pandemic aid. So you got to do something to address that. You have to help people out at the bottom. Austerity is going to make them turn on you, of course. So those are the two biggest policy problems that he needs to address. Now, outside of the policy problems, we've been through this. There are three ways to run a campaign. And really, ideally, you blend these three approaches in order to win. So what are the three things? Number one, this is what his strategy is going to be. My opponent is terrible. My opponent is beyond the pale. He's too extreme. He wants to be a dictator. He's got 91 criminal charges. List goes on and on and on with a guy like Donald Trump. That's only the first prong of your, what should be your three-pronged approach. Thing number two is, I'm awesome and here's what I've done. And, you know, Biden, for all of his flaws, has plenty of things he can point to say, look at how much better this is than what the other guy was. $1,400 stimulus checks, student debt reduction, massively reduced the drone war, pulled out of Afghanistan, brought in 800,000 manufacturing jobs, raised the minimum wage for federal contractors and employees to $15 an hour, did project labor agreements, which helps construction workers get higher pay. My NLRB is massively pro-labor. We did a 15% corporate minimum tax, which means back in the day, some of them would pay nothing or even get a subsidy. Now we're making them pay at least 15%. We did the PACT Act to help veterans who were exposed to toxic burn pits. We did the infrastructure bill. We did the CHIPS Act. We gave $64 billion more to Obamacare so that more people can have health care. Like, he has things he could point to. So thing number one is my opponent is terrible. Thing number two is I'm awesome and here's why. And then thing number three, and this one, I've seen nothing like this at all from the Biden team. Very little have I seen of the second part too. The I'm awesome, here's what I've done. They do very little of that. But I've seen nothing of, here's what I'm going to do in the second term. I'm going to do paid family leave. I'm finally going to get $15 minimum wage for the entire country. You know, we're going to do sectoral bargaining. I don't know, fill in the blank, public option. Anything that we know people support, people like, would help people. But there's none of that. So it looks like the only strategy is, I'm going to lean into, quote, going for the jugular. and portraying him as beyond the pale. Now, look, he may get lucky that dealing with a guy like Trump, that might be enough to take him down. But it would be razor thinsies even if he's able to pull it out, which is a big if. And so, without doing the other two parts of it, he's struggling. And I don't know. It's kind of funny to me that this article's out there as if it's some sort of like, here, big news. This is the direction they're going. And it's like, big news. Trump is bad. Okay. I think you're going to have to be a little more innovative, right? Especially at a time where you're telling the majority of your base, young voters, Arab Americans and Muslim Americans, Latinos, Black Americans, to functionally piss off with how much you're shoving your thumb in their eye on some key policy issues that they care about. So it's going to require a little more than this, Joe. That's something you should know. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.